third graders, my name is Mrs. Slack, and we are going to be working on a project that is called Grandma's Quilt. And right here is a sample of what you are going to be creating. It will look similar to this, but not exactly like this, because you will use some of your own colors and you'll design your quilt a little bit differently than I did. But what you will be working with is a kit. Your teacher probably gave you this kit. You've already probably logged into the class code, otherwise you wouldn't be watching this video. But we're going to start off with this today, and please feel free at any time to pause the video if there's something that you need to go and do, or if I'm going too fast and you need to take some time to do things. And there will be times that I just say, okay, this is what you need to do, pause the video until you have that done. But let's look at what is in your kit. So inside the kit, what your task is, I forgot to tell you that, is right on the top. Grandma is getting ready to make a new quilt, but she needs your help. She knows that she wants the quilt to be 3 units by 3 units and that each unit will be 10 inches by 10 inches, but she is having trouble figuring out what sizes of fabric to cut out. It will be your job to help her create a sample quilt out of construction paper. And if you look at my quilt, this is kind of hard to see because it's a lot of color. But this right here is 1 unit. So I have 1 unit here, a unit here, and a unit here. So there's 3 by 1, 2, 3 units. So that's the 3 units by 3 units. Within each unit, you have 10 inches this way and 10 inches this way. So then you have a 10 by 10 inch unit. So you have units inside of units, and then inside of the 10 inch by 10 inch you have other units of area here. So that's what you will be working on, is some area. Okay, so inside of your kit you will find a bunch of papers that are clipped together in plastic sleeves. These you need to leave in here because these are your teacher's resources. So what you need to print off for yourself is this top one, Grandma's Quilt rubric, and we'll talk about that once we've gotten through the whole project. So print that off. You need to print off side links of rectangles. This is a whole bunch of pages. It's about 20-some pages, so print that off and staple those together. And then lastly, you need to print off the daily check-in. So I'm going to have you pause the video and print off all of those items. And then when you have them all printed off, then start the video again and we'll continue. Okay, so now you have everything printed off. You will also find in your kit a whole bunch of construction paper, and it has 1-inch square grids in there, or arrays. You'll be cutting them into smaller arrays. You have a Sharpie marker, and on the very bottom you have much larger pieces of paper. These are your 10-inch by 10-inch quilt blocks. So if I were to cut this out on the dark line, it would fit perfectly on one of these. So you'll be making 9 of these to make your 3 unit by 3 unit quilt. So the first thing that you need to do is get yourself 2 crayons. So pause the video, go get yourself 2 crayons, and then come right back. Make them 2 different colored crayons. Okay, so you have your 2 crayons, and we're going to work with the side length of rectangles pages. You'll be doing all of these pages to start with. I'm going to back up a minute because every day after you're done working on this project, you need to check in with your teacher. So you should have your daily check-in. You should have your date written in here already. So if you don't, write the date in there. At the end of your math time or whatever time your teacher's having you work on this, you need to write what you completed today. Take it up to your teacher. They might want you to show what you did, and then they're going to initial or sign here so that they know that what you've been working on every day. Okay, so side lengths of rectangles. This is where you are going to figure out all of the different arrays for each of the areas up here. So I want an area of 2. So I know that I have two ways to find an area of 2 if I'm thinking of multiplication. One of them is 1 unit by 2 units. So it would look like that. And then I'm going to write underneath it 1 times 2 equals 2. The other way to find that same area would be 2 units by 1 unit. So then I'm going to put 2 times 1 equals 2. And I'm hoping that I'm putting this in front of the camera correctly. So you are going to go through this whole thing and find all of the areas, the different ways to find the area of that number. I want to do area 18 with you as a sample too before I have you pause and do the whole packet. So when I think of the area of 18, of course, 1 times whatever number is that number. 1 times 18 equals 18. 18 times 1 equals 18. However, we only have 10 inches by 10 inches. We have a 10 by 10 grid. So can I do 1 times 18 and 18 times 1? I can't. So we have to make sure that whatever we use for our area, for the arrays for that area, that it fits within a 10 unit by 10 unit space. So then I know that 2 times 9 equals 18, and will that fit? That will fit. So I'm going to make a 2 times 9. And I've written my multiplication problem there. 2 times 9 equals 18. So if 2 times 9 equals 18, then 9 times 2 equals 18. Now here's where this other color comes in play. I don't want to draw red on top of red, so I picked a blue crayon. So now I can do 9 times 2 equals 18, and I can overlap them, but I can still see the difference. And I'll do it, and then I'll show you. So now I have 9 times 2 equals 18, and can you see where it overlaps on the red? And that's perfectly fine. I just want to see that they're all there. So what else equals 18 that I can find an area? I know that 3 times 6 equals 18. So I'm going to find one that is 3. I'm going to draw one that's 3 times 6. And draw that multiplication problem in there. So if 3 times 6 equals 18, then 6 times 3 would equal 18. And again, I'm going to switch to my blue. Because it will overlap a little bit. 6 times 3 equals 18. So now I want you to pause this and go through this entire packet and figure out and draw all of the different ways that you can make the area for that number at the top. I'll come back and I'll tell you how many you should have for each one. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I'm going to tell you how much you have, how many you should have. And if you're missing any, then you can pause it again and you can solve which ones you've missed. So go ahead and pause it, and we'll be right back with that. Okay, so let's look through your packet. For an area of 2, you should have 2. For an area of 3, you should have 2. For an area of 4, you should have 3. For an area of 5, you should have 2. For an area of 6, you should have 4. For an area of 7, you should have 2. For an area of 8, you should have 4. For an area of 9, you should have 3. For For an area of 10, you should have 4. For an area of 12, you should have 4. For an area of 14, you should have 2. For an area of 15, you should have 2. For an area of 16, you should have 3. We did 18 together, you should have 4. For an area of 20, you should have 4. For an area of 21, you should have 2. For an area of 24, you should have 4. For an area of 25, you should have 1. For an area of 30, you should have 4. For an area of 36, you should have 3. And for an area of 48, you should have 2. Okay, so now that you have that done, you have all the possible arrays that you can use in your quilt. So now we're going to start building a quilt block. You will need to do 9 of these. So we will do the first one. Before we can actually build the block, we have to prepare our arrays on our different colors. Now you'll notice on mine, let's look at the light yellow. So I have light yellow here, 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 and here. These arrays aren't the same shape, are they? That's because I used 6 times 2 equals 12 and 4 times 3 equals 12. Here I have 3 times 4 equals 12, and I don't have one that's 2 times 6 equals 12 on my quilt. But whatever the area is, it stays the same color. So all of the light yellow have an area of 12. All of the gray, here, 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 and here, have the same area of 16. So now we need to pick out what colors we want to go with each area. So I'm going to show you how to do a couple of them, and then again I'm going to have you pause it so that you can do all of yours. And you're just going to start at the very front of your packet, and I'm just going to decide that this peach color is going to be my area of 2. So I'm going to trim out all the way around so that all that I have left are my nice little squares. Please cut carefully. That is one of the things on your rubric, is that you're cutting. Let me see what it actually says about cutting. It says to earn the most amount of points, you cut straight and carefully on the lines. It's not going to fit if you don't cut straight and carefully. So then I'm left with this, which is all of the squares. And I also have a bunch of garbage. So these 3 thin ones I'm throwing in the trash. This bigger one, I'm going to cut a chunk out of it, and I'm going to write the number 2 on it. So then anytime I'm building a quilt block, and I know that I want to put an area of 2 in there, I know exactly which color I'm going to go to. So I won't use the peach again because I've used it for the area of 2. And I'm just setting it on the table in front of me so that I have it. So then the next color in here is a hot pink. So then I'm going to flip my page, and oh, the next one is 3. So then I'm going to do the same exact thing. I'm going to cut this out. This bigger one, I'm going to cut a piece out, and I'm going to put a 3 on it. So then I know if I find a spot where I need area of 3, I need to use this hot pink color. so that it's consistent throughout my whole quilt. So away I go, cutting away and throwing away anything I don't need. Construction paper cannot be recycled, so make sure you throw it in the trash, not in the recycle bin. So now I'm going to have you pause the video and do this for all of your pages. So every one of these will have a different color, and then you'll have that area number on here so that you know exactly which color goes with that area. Okay, so moving on to the next step. So you have made all of your little pieces of paper that have the area, the total area on each color. And you should have a whole bunch of these. And then you should have all kinds of pages cut out and ready to go like this. So I wanted to show you one of these quilt blocks. So one of the 3x3s, so that you can look at just one in particular. So this is 10 inches by 10 inches. Now if I look at my rubric, it says that rectangles in each 10 inch by 10 inch square, in order to get 3 points, which is what you want the best score, you have to use at least 8 different sized rectangles in each square. So I should see at least 5 different colors in each rectangle. Here I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because this is the same. So now I want to talk to you about which ones I used. Of course, your colors will be different than the ones on here, and the sample that I'm going to show you is going to be different colors as well as this sample. So here I always start with my biggest square, just so you know. So my biggest square I decided was going to be 6 by 5. Always this number comes first. So 6 times 5 equals 30, and I wrote right in here 6 times 5 equals 30. And then I built around it. So I made a 6 by 2, 6 times 2 equals 12. I built above it. 4 times 2 equals 8, which I have written here. 4 times 4 equals 16. 4 times 1 equals 4. And then I filled in this one over here, and I thought it would be fun and challenging to use the area of 12 twice, but use a different array to show that same area. If you are going to use the same area within that same block, please use a different array. So don't use 6 times 2 and then 6 times 2. So here I used 4 times 3 equals 12. I have a 2 times 3 equals 6, a 3 times 3 equals 9, and a 1 times 3 equals 3. So now I want to demonstrate to you how I created this. So I'm just going to pull out from the bottom one of these pages, and let's see if I can get tape from here. There we go. I'm just going to get this piece of tape and tape it right up here. You will need glue sticks, probably more than one. So go ahead and pause it and go get a couple of glue sticks. Okay, so for mine, again, I want to start with a bigger square. So the first one that I cut out was 5 by 5. So here's my 5 by 5 square. And I'm going to put my multiplication problem on there. 5 times 5 equals, I'm not going to tell you the answer because you should know. So then look, the colors match. So I know that this is always going to be my color if my array, my area, is 25. So I'm going to put my glue stick on here. Glue this all up. And then I decided I want to put it in this top corner. So get that glued on there. And then I want to show you one that uses 10. Because any of these papers that are in here, I couldn't get it so that there were 10 squares. So in order to do 2 times 10, I have to cut out 2 times 9, 9 times 2, and a 1 times 2. But when I glue it together, it will be 10 times 2. So I'll put my 10 times 2 on there. Oops, and I forgot to write the multiplication problem on there, but I can do it once it's up here. Just makes it a little trickier because it's in the air. So now here is 10 times 2 equals 20. And then I decided I want to fill in this space here. But I want to make it creative. So I don't want all of it to be the same. So I decided I was going to do 4 times 3. Here's the color that I decided was going to be for 12. So put my multiplication problem on there. 4 times 3 equals 12. I think it's fun to have as many different colors on here as possible. So I like to be as creative as possible with lots of different sizes. So now I want to fit this in. So I'm going to make a 1 by 3 array. 1 times 3 equals 3, and these are square inches, so this one has 3 square inches. Now I have, again, 5. If I did 5 by 5 again, I would have a 25. But I can't use the same thing twice because it's not a different shaped array. So I can't use that. So I've decided I'm going to chop that up too because, again, I think that's fun. So right here, I'm going to put 5 times 3. Could have used a little more glue stick on that 1 by 3. So 5 by 3 gives me 15 there. And again, here we are with this big chunk. That's 5 by 5, but I can't do that. So I decided that I was going to make a 2 by 5, which equals 10. So that's yet another color because I don't have an area of 10 on here yet. And I like to make it as creative and colorful as possible. 2 times 5 equals 10. The other reason that you're doing this project is because you need a challenge. So challenge yourself. Don't make it super easy. So now here we have 3 by 5. Could I put another 3 by 5 equals 15 in there? Would it? Yes. Would it be different than this one? Yes. But then I'd have 2 dark blues right next to each other, so I don't want that. So I want to chop it up into 2 different colors for area. So I'm picking a 3 by 3. 3 times 3 equals 9. And again, it matches what I had already decided was my color for 9. And then my last one that I decided to do was a 3 by 2, which equals 6. I could have done a 1 by 2 and a 2 by 2 if I wanted. I could have done a 3 by 1, but then I would have been left with another 3 by 1. So that wouldn't have worked. And if 2 3 by 1s is the same as a 3 by 2. So 3 by 2 equals 6. So that's one block. You need 3 by 3. So you need 9 of these. So this is the first one done. So once you have it done, you will then trim all of this extra off, the white. That can be recycled because it's just copy paper. And then once you have them all done, you'll be able to lay them out and glue them all to, this is just the paper that your teacher puts on a bulletin board, and they'll know where to get that. You just have to politely ask for some bulletin board paper. And you might need to lay your quilt out on the floor so they can see what size you need. So then if I were to take this, I can show you that it perfectly covers up that one. So there's my 10 by 10 quilt block, 1 of 9. So that part is done. Except you need 8 more. So the last thing I want us to do is look at the rubric. And I had mine right in front of me. There it is. I put it in the tub. You might want to put your name on your stuff so you don't lose it. So you then now need to score yourself. When you've got all of it put together, you need to give yourself a score on the quality of work that you did. If you have followed the directions throughout this entire video, you should have 3s in everything. It's whether you follow directions or not. So let's look at this first one. Side lengths of rectangle pages. That is these pages right here. You would have 3 points if you accurately drew all of the possibilities for each area and wrote the multiplication problem and product on each. The problem is 1 times 2. The product is 2. The problem is 3 times 3. The product is 9. So you have to have the array and the multiplication problem. And I went through already and told you how many you needed for each of those numbers for the area. So if you did all of that, then you would circle the words that are under the column 3. To earn a 2, and you should have this right in front of you as we're doing this, you accurately drew most of the possibilities for each area and wrote the multiplication problems and products on most. So that's doing most of them. 1 point, you drew very few of the areas correctly and wrote the multiplication problems and products on very few. So you didn't do very much at all. Color scheme. You followed your color scheme accurately on your quilt. So when I said it was an area of 25, every time there's an area of 25, it is this exact same color. You somewhat, 2 points would be you somewhat followed your color scheme in your quilt. So maybe you goofed and purple was supposed to be 3, but you made it pink in one of your blocks. That's somewhat following it. Or if you have 12 and you make this one a different color than this one because of their shape is different, but their area is the same, and we have to look at the area. We want the same color for the same area. You would give yourself 1 point if you didn't follow a color scheme at all in your quilt and you just randomly put stuff and put the multiplication problems on there. Cutting. You cut straight and carefully on the lines, and we talked about that before when we were cutting to begin with. Give yourself 3 points if you did do that. 2 points if you usually cut straight and accurately on the lines, and 1 point if you cut carelessly. Multiple areas shown. Oh, this one's an interesting one. So this one, there are, I believe, in here, 21 pages of different areas that you could use. Therefore, you should have had 21 different colors of construction paper as well. Multiple areas shown means that you used 16 to 21 different areas on your quilt. You have 16 to 21 different colors somewhere on your quilt. Here's what I would suggest you do. When you use 2, like the one that I just did, I used 3. I used all of these, 5 by 5 on 25. I would find my page that has 25 on it, and I'd put a check mark at the top so I know that I have used that somewhere on my quilt. Here I used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different areas I'm already halfway done and I've only done one quilt block and I still have 8 more to do. So when I do my next ones, I'm going to want to make sure that I'm using different areas for the next blocks. You would give yourself 2 points if you used 11 to 15 of the different areas on your quilt. 1 point if you used fewer than 13 different areas on your quilt. If you use less, if the fewer you use, the less colorful and creative it will look. And you'll be able to spot that right away, or your teacher will be able to spot that right away if you didn't use many different areas. Rectangles in each 10-inch by 10-inch square is the last part of your rubric. You would earn 3 points if you used at least 5 different sized rectangles in each square. So we were just talking about this one, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different sized rectangles in there. I need to have at least 5 in each one of these blocks. So I definitely did that. So the minimum is 5. I mean, I could have used more probably, but I thought that was pretty good, and it's very colorful, and I like it. 2 points if you used 3 to 4 different sized rectangles in each square. So if you're using 3 or 4, you don't have a whole lot of color, and you probably have a lot of really big blocks. 1 point if you used fewer than 3 different sized rectangles in your square. So I think that is all. Once you have your rubric scored, you are going to give that to your teacher, and you are going to give them your final project so that they can see what cool thing you have created. I hope you liked this project, and I hope that you will do another one with me. All right, thank you. Bye.